What's up, humans? You are listening to the What is Humans podcast with Shane Strunk and Dennis Kluba. Make sure to follow us on our social media pages, on Instagram at What is Humans Podcast, on TikTok at What is Humans Podcast, and on YouTube at What is Humans Podcast. Today, Dennis and I are discussing asking for help. Enjoy. Hey.
You're listening to the What is Humans podcast. If this is your first time listening, this is a podcast which are personal discussions between Shane Strunk and myself about bettering ourselves through some of the things that we're going through right now and working to get better. Hopefully you at home feel that some of these discussions can be helpful to you. And most importantly, we are experts in
Almost nothing. Good to see you, man.
Good to see you too.
What are we talking about today?
We're talking about asking for help.
Okay.
Kind of we're going to relate it back towards things that are going on in our personal lives. We, each have our own stuff that we've kind of gone through, but also joint ventures where we've had to ask for help and learn to get better. So I'm excited.
Yeah, totally. I think we'll relate it to recent events, but also I think that this topic is like a skill that can be applied in every area of your life. Help, like, in the larger perspective, is like being vulnerable to, an area that you might not be good at, that you could be struggling with. And I think we would definitely argue that you don't get anywhere without the support of another. Like anything that you've ever accomplished. Anything that you've ever done, from taking your first steps to being where you are today, was with, people in your lives. So I think that gratitude and understanding, top of mind, is important to kind of the ego that might be tied to, I can solve anything on my own. That can be maybe instilled in us that you should figure things out on your own. So we're going to teeter on that conversation, I think. Is there anything on that you wanted to add, maybe?
Yeah, I just think the biggest thing, you started off really well by just saying that majority of everything that we've accomplished in life is due to support, at the very least, from someone else, if not help, right?
If not, the majority of anything you've done has been.
But you also mentioned that I'm sure throughout this conversation we'll talk about it in the other sense of what is the value of doing things on your own, learning, and kind of taking that agency within your own life. But you mentioned teetering on the approach that we take towards asking for help or not, and how that can be beneficial or detrimental to us actually moving forward.
There's definitely going to be it's going to be a double-edged sword where you could be asking for too much help, and there could be something that you could, figure out yourself, or it's you're afraid to ask for help when it could be a simple answer or something that you just don't have the ability to do for yourself. So where do you want to begin on this?
Well, I was just going to ask you, in your own personal life, when have you felt like you obviously talked about vulnerability right off the top, but when have you felt like you've been most open to asking for help? And when have there been other times where you've been least forward coming with reaching out and asking others for help?
I think there's probably different stages of it. I think that, as a child, growing up, I feel like it's a common thing to do is to ask your parents, what things are. Like, we are just so prone to we are the most curious little sponges when we're little, of just asking a billion questions, of always seeking their help, because that's kind of what's needed at that stage of life. In my experience, maybe it was in high school, probably more college. I don't know if it was ego or that I just thought I could figure things out on my own, and I didn't need to rely on others. And I think that stage is important to go through as well.
Yeah.
Because it gives you that confidence and that understanding that you can solve things on your own. But also I thought that was limiting for me of areas that I wasn't asking for help. Maybe it was mental health reasons or relationship reasons or, fitness or, professional goals, etc. So I think to answer your question, stage I'm in now is probably when I'm kind of mastering some of these, or I've just improved in it of being able to ask for help. So I think that's a journey that I had to take to understand how to. And it's not going to be perfect. I'm not perfect today and I won't be tomorrow, but it's an experience that you kind of have to go through on how to ask for help.
Yeah. No, I love that you brought up this kind of like evolution of age and, kind of that identity that comes with self-awareness. You mentioned ego and like vulnerability. I was the same way, as a kid, asking a lot of questions, but even we talk about it within school, like not wanting to seem quote unquote dumb.
Yeah.
Right? Like not asking
wanting
questions.
To raise your hand. Yeah.
Completely. And, even for me, you brought in mental health, which was a great thing too. I remember the first time that I like reached out to a therapist, that was after we had ended sports. Just didn't really know the direction. I had one meeting, it just didn't go very well, so I never went back, which catapulted into like a 1.5 year pretty terrible stretch. And then I had to again be vulnerable and ask for help again, right? And at that time, I was much more forthcoming with that vulnerability. And that's snowballed, like you said, into this point now where we have kind of laid out these big goals, whether that's physical, business, social, that we've almost been required to ask others who are even just a little bit better than us at certain skills and, attributes like, hey, we know that you're not perfect, but can you help us do this? Because we know that you're a little bit better than us. And I want to ask you too, that on this vulnerable side, it's so scary. It's so hard to reach out and ask questions. You feel like you're going to be judged or attacked for not knowing things. Number one, how do you see selfishness playing into being vulnerable or asking for help and getting over that hump of, hey, I'm embarrassed that I look dumb, but in reality, me asking for help is potentially going to catapult me forward in my own growth.
Yeah. I think that there's fear and insecurity that's tied to asking for help. And I think it's more of a self-awareness or understanding that everyone's been, at the beginning stages of something. Yeah. Everyone's had a new job or been at a certain stage of your career. Maybe it's been through heartbreak or been through the loss of a loved one. So there is different experiences. We all have our own lives to live. But I think that if you think that your experience is so unique, I think that could be very limiting perspective. I think you have to understand that there is insight out there. There are people that have life experience that has been through what you have and have simple answers to a very basic question that you might be afraid to ask. So I think that dropping that fear of it's okay not to know answers, not to be perfect, is something that you'll have to practice. Yeah.
I love, and this is so great that you brought that up, because one of the big topics and probably one of the main pillars of our podcast is that, like, we don't know. And majority of the people walking around, as put together as they seem, as senior as your boss seems, as amazing as the relationship that your best friend's in, they don't know what comes next. Maybe they've had a few more experiences than you, but that's where it's like, to think that you couldn't ask them because you're the only one that doesn't know, and that would be so embarrassing, is so limiting and small-minded that, hey, like, we're all humans. There's this common overlap of shared experiences that we all have gone through.
Yeah.
And you just have to ask somebody and be like, hey, I know that you're maybe a couple years older or you've done this job before. How do I get better? How do I become you? And they're probably like, yeah, no, I was in the same boat you were 2 years ago.
It's also very selfish to believe that the other person would be upset from you asking that question.
Wow.
That you are the center of their world. They probably just aren't even thinking or have any concern other than their own problems that are in front of them. Mm-hmm. So to be thinking that your problems is the center of their problems, like, is just so far from the truth. Mm-hmm. So once you kind of realize that, like, everyone has their own perspective, their own, like, eyes that they see out, you know, life that they live, you can understand that, okay, it's totally fine for me to ask and to go out of my way to seek this person out or to seek advice, etc., on their insight.
Completely. One quick story, a personal anecdote on that point. I mentioned this to Shane before, but I had a new coworker, and he was an expert in this one specific field. I'm more of a generalist. He was an expert in animation and motion graphics. I reached out to him when he first started again, and I said, hey, I really like, you know, the field that you're in. I'd love to, like, talk, have a Zoom meeting, whatever. He never responded to that Slack. Mm-hmm. But it took a lot of courage for me to ask that question.
Sure.
We later worked on a project together in which he had to message me, and he said, oh my gosh, I'm taking it personally, right? Like, he doesn't care about this at all. Yeah. He's like, dude, I was so busy at that time, so worried about, like, getting on board to doing everything. I completely missed this. Like, we need to catch up. It's me in my own mind thinking that this person personally ignored me because they didn't want to help me out, when in reality, they were just so busy with their own shit that it just fell through the cracks.
And we can never fully understand another's perspective. Like, it's out of our external, you know, it's out of our control. Like, we can't put expectations on another's decisions, how they live. It's more, what can you control? And you can't let that event like that affect you.
Yeah, completely. So question. So as we get in, we're going to get into the house, but I want to talk to you a little bit about the approach while we're still in the approach of asking for help.
Okay.
And maybe not how we do that yet, but your attitude towards asking for help and or how important it is to try and do some things by yourself, or at least learn what maybe somebody else is doing, right? If you ask for help and you say, hey, can you help me build this logo?
Yeah.
They might love it and say, yes, I'd love to do that. But how important is it for you, Shane, to be like, okay, can you explain to me, like, how you're doing it, like the steps you're going through? And how important is that? Yeah.
I think kind of what you're asking is like, have you taken the time to, I don't know, do a little homework or do a little, what is this? Like what resources do I have, within my reach that can help bring me up to speed on this topic, or is there, a friend to reach out to, or what's within my network if you don't have those resources? So say you find that person, and you have to understand that you are requesting something of them, their knowledge, so you have to be appreciative of their support, but also understanding of that they have their own life to live, their work to do, etc. So if you can keep those things in mind of what can I do for myself first, what's within my reach, when I do have someone that is better than me at this, reaching out and understanding that this is a request, this is something I'm asking of them, how can I make this easier for them? Yes. That way it's digestible for them, that it's conducive to them.
Completely. Yeah, no, it's so good. That was exactly what I was referencing. I think it's kind of this idea of meeting someone halfway. If you're going to take time away from them, or you're going to request something like you put, it's like you want to make it as seamless of a process for them as possible. Yeah. Come to the table with, hey, this is what I know. This is what I've tried to do. This is what I've learned. I just think that with your help, this could be so much better.
Yeah. What about the importance? I mean, I'm in sales. What about the importance of asking versus not asking, and maybe where are we falling short of being so afraid to ask when it's something that we should just be almost leading with.
You mean like in terms of just like if you don't ask, you won't
Well, it's
know?
just like maybe I am going to do my homework and research it myself. Like, where's that line of I probably should just reach out to this person and not spend this time trying to learn this subject, or
Outsource it.
yeah. When should I just straight up ask instead of trying to figure it out myself? Is there an answer to that?
It's all this is. I think that topic specifically is going to be very based on the situational. Yes. But I would say that for me, a lot of times when I kind of know, is I almost look like, I'm in creative and I've only done it for a few years, but I can tell you how long things are going to take me and what is possible that I can do. And I can see that it's not coming to fruition. And then if you look at a friend or a coworker or whomever that is an expert or, a professional in that field, it's like, hey, I'm sure for you, this was going to go much quicker. I don't have the skills or the time to accomplish this task. And that's when I would say it's the right time to ask, because I think that there is value in at least attempting it, unless you have unlimited resources, which most of us don't have. We don't, on money, time to ask others of their expertise or knowledge.
Yeah, totally. I love that you kind of gave that specific example of what's something within your reach. I also want to try and apply it to more broader sense other than, let's say, business.
Yeah.
Say it's you need help from a mental health standpoint, or you want to ask someone out for a coffee. You want to, you want to do this thing with a friend. You want to do, et cetera, passion, new hobby, et cetera.
Yeah.
I think that it's so important that we're putting ourselves out there, that we are being proactive, giving ourselves a little more agency instead of waiting for life to come to you.
Yeah.
There'll be a perfect day where I can finally learn how to how to surf, or learn how to work on this art that I was trying to do, or learn a new language. It's like you have to be proactive with your own life, and being able to ask for help is so crucial in being able to execute
paramount
on your passions, on your career, on your
personal
life when it comes to relationships.
Yeah. The thing that I was going to say, the cliche is closed mouth doesn't get fed. Right?
Yeah.
And if there's something that you want so badly, you want to ask, you want to get better at, but you're never willing to put yourself out there like you were mentioning.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to know to help you. And
exactly.
That's a very brash term or terminology, especially when you're referring to mental health. But that's, that really is the crux of, you have to ask other individuals for that help.
Yeah, no one's going to come save you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love that. So maybe some hows on asking for help. And remember, let's try and keep this in general terms. That could be conducive for mental health. Maybe you want to advance your career, improve some of your habits, et cetera.
Yeah, completely. I think, we backtracked a little bit, but this idea of assessing where you're at and what you can do, what's within your power, is, I think, a very beginning step, because a lot of times that will let you know if it's time to ask for help.
Yeah.
And if it's, especially in, broader terms, maybe that pressure is coming down so quickly that you need to do it right now.
The term you used was do a little self-awareness of where you're at. What's the good, bad, ugly when it comes to my day, my life, my mental health, my job, et cetera. Maybe it's journaling, writing down where you're at, just to get a little clarity of where exactly you are, how things are, because it could just be very foggy in the day-to-day.
Yeah.
When so many things are popping up at once, it seems like your day is controlling you instead of you having any agency in your day. So I love that kind of first self-awareness assessment.
Yeah. No, I think seeing where you're at right then. So I think once you're able to do that, you're kind of able to start putting the pieces together on what you might need to do. I think the second part really comes into like doing that, whatever that thing that you're asking about. If it's your mental health, if it's something that's in business, if it's relationship building, if it's all these different things, it's like that small amount of research that we talked about in the approach of kind of putting in, meeting the whoever you might ask halfway of saying, hey, I know this about this task. I'm not doing great at it. I've sought, to try and learn it myself, but I need more help. Putting in that work, I think, is the second step, leads you right into the actual asking.
The actual ask, which I think the actual ask step is you have to understand, kind of have that understanding that your problems aren't the center of their problems, that this person or this, you have to be vulnerable in this step of asking for help and have understanding that there is going to be time that they're going to be giving. And everyone has been through their own experiences, has started a new job before, has been through difficult situations. So you have to understand that your problem might not be so unique. Yes, your life and your day is so unique. Your life is unique. However, it's important to tap into experience that another has, because you can't do this alone.
Yeah, completely. And that's where, like, we always say, like, that third step is the action of asking.
Yeah.
So why are we talking about this today?
Yeah. So kind of my why, really it's been conversations you and I have been having on this podcast. We've been trying to improve some of our quality. I have some personal and professional goals that I set for myself this year, and the idea that I can do anything on my own is just so far from the truth.
Yeah.
So I have to invest, and I want to put relationships at top of mind. Like, I want to invest in the people in my life, and because I know that they've helped get me where I am today. And I think asking for help is a skill that we have to practice if we want to achieve and succeed in any of these goals that we set out for ourselves.
Yeah, I think for me, this is all in hindsight, but my reasons are incredibly selfish. A lot of the goals that I had for myself coming up now on 3 or 4 years, things that I thought that I wanted, I would say that I definitely was trying to achieve them on my own. And just like, even from when I was a kid, whether it was homework, research papers, etc., I was very adamant about, I got it. Yeah. It's all good. Don't worry about it. And what I've realized over the past 2-3 years, something that's probably started with kind of my own mental health journey, was asking somebody else for help. And then literally in the past months that we've, really grown a lot of that growth is due to the relationships that we've cultivated in reaching out to others. And the selfishness that comes into that is, I want to be the best possible person that I can be. And the only way that that's possible is being vulnerable and asking others to help me achieve my own goals.
Yeah.
And, in that way, it's made me have to get better at asking others for help.
Yeah, I love that, man. That's great. Yeah. So let's do a quick recap. So today we talked about asking for help. Yeah. And we really gave it in terms, kind of a broader sense that could fall into mental health, could fall into personal development, maybe relationship building, career development, and really just that it's a general skill in order to improve in areas. And the center focus is that you can't get anywhere alone.
Yeah, completely. And we talked a little bit about the approach and, how we have to meet other people at halfway, and that their time, their knowledge, their experience is valuable and unique. Yes, and totally. Really respecting that process and taking agency within your own life on, okay, I have to really close mouths don't get fed, and we have to be forthcoming with that vulnerability.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And really our hows, we had a few hows, which was one, kind of do that self-awareness, understanding of where you are. It's so often when you're going through a tough time, your day's stressful, that you don't really have some clarity of where you are.
Yeah.
I think writing things down is a perfect thing to get some clarity of where you are, where you're feeling. By doing that self-awareness check of how things are, you can then kind of see maybe what steps you can take next of reaching out to someone, or it's something within your reach. And then from that, we can actually drop that fear and ask someone from help, knowing that they've been through similar experiences. We've all had that beginner mindset. We've all been a beginner or an infant in some capacity at some point, and you can't get there without asking.
Yeah.
Closed mouths don't get fed, right?
Completely.
And then our whys.
Yeah, for me, it was really kind of this backwards, selfish approach to really wanting to be the best possible individual that I can be, and recognizing that that only can happen when I'm vulnerable and reach out and ask others for help.
Yeah, and my why was kind of an understanding that I can't get anywhere by myself, and there's been times in my life, and I still do this, where I don't ask for help thinking that I have the answers when my answers could be wrong.
Yeah.
So the people and the relationships that you cultivate is how you get anywhere in life.
Completely.
And I think that wraps another week of
What is Humans. Thanks, guys.